Hello and welcome to the Thwipping Boys podcast. This is the latest edition of our Triple Threat Challenge. In this podcast, John, who is the big bearded gentleman right there, say hello, John.
I'll do.
And myself, Simon, discuss the wonderful world of wrestling. So, first of all, John, it's been 2 years since we last did this show, and we've just recently returned from a very long sabbatical. And you've got a quick message that you want to pass along about another one of the shows we do.
Yeah, so because some people can't be 100% cool enough to like wrestling and Babylon 5 at the same time, we've got certain people that like one thing we do and certain people that like another thing we do. And we're getting harassed to continue our Babylon 5 epic review where we would basically watch everything in order and talk about it. And we're halfway through season 4 of the main show. We haven't watched it in 2 years. And for us to just pick it up would be crazy at the moment. So instead of rewatching the show to get back up to where we are, we're listening to ourselves talk about the show because it's probably the quickest way to catch up. And because obviously we've got our own threads that we'll pick up from the stuff we were saying as well. So there's a lot of that. So we're powering through our own podcast at the moment to get up to speed with Babylon 5. Once we're there, we will pick it up again and we will start it. It'll be in the next few weeks. So once we're on a roll, I'm sure we'll be going reasonably fast with it. So please bear with us. But as Simon said, today is about wrestling.
So yeah, back to wrestling. Now, the idea of the Triple Threat Challenge is we take 3 random matches from the WWE Network and we use them as a structure to be able to talk about our experiences with wrestling and our thoughts about the industry and stuff. Just before we go into that, I just want to say, John, the interesting thing about where we are now compared to where we were 2 years ago when we last did this is that 2 years ago you were coming at this from a lapsed fan perspective of you used to be the biggest wrestling fan that I know, and you stopped watching in the early 2000s,
late 90s
or late 90s, or it must have been around
99. 99,
so you stopped watching at what most people consider the peak of the industry.
Yeah.
And then you got an interest for wrestling again with the network, but not new stuff.
Yes.
Since then, that has changed
a little bit.
So you watch the pay-per-views.
Yeah.
Do you watch Raw?
I watch the edited highlights of Raw and SmackDown.
Okay. So you don't watch the whole shows because not many people have the ability to watch at least 5 hours of wrestling a week.
Yeah, I also usually watch NXT.
Yep, that's cool.
But yeah,
so you're coming at this from a very different place, because I remember not long before we started this show last time, we watched an episode of SmackDown together, and you were like, Sheamus? Who the hell is Sheamus?
Yeah.
What a stupid person. And now you know all about Sheamus and Cesaro and the Bar.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I think that's quite an interesting difference between where we were when we last did this.
I will point out, although I've become completely obsessed with wrestling again, I'm not enjoying it.
No. John, welcome to the world of being a wrestling fan nowadays.
I remember 1995.
Yes. You had to put up with Diesel as champion.
I defending against Mabel.
Yeah. Is that better than Jinder Mahal? Don't know.
Jinder Mahal's much
versus
better.
Randy. So there were a couple of things I wanted to do before we got onto the Triple Threat Challenge, and it actually kind of segues quite nicely into that one. First thing, state of the WWE. Point 1, what did you think of the Mae Young Classic? Have you finished it?
I haven't finished it.
You haven't finished, so you've not watched the finale. Okay.
No, I've enjoyed it more than I expected to so far. I think it's been really interesting. I like the way they present these shows. I like the way they presented the Cruiserweight Classic. They're basically talking about these people as if they're real people. They're talking about their real lives. They're talking about their genuine motivations, why they want to win. And it's not because they're best friends that have fallen out and then had an argument on Twitter, which it seems to be in the main show nowadays. It's because I was homeless and an orphan, and I grew up learning to wrestle to give me something to do, and that's given me a life. You know, somebody's true story, but I'm this person, and I've been an MMA fighter, and I'm coming in here to kill everyone, and whatever it is, they're just going with that sort of shoot-ish.
Yeah, because there's one woman, I think Mia Yim, I think her name is, who her background is that she's the victim of domestic abuse.
Yeah.
And the thing is that when that would normally be built into a story, it would be built as, oh, that's the person that's going to win. But no, everybody's got that background. That wasn't a guarantee she was even going to win her first match, let alone that she would win the overall thing. Which obviously, as you know, she doesn't. I hope you know that.
I've watched it more of as a. I found it interesting more than particularly exciting. Some of the wrestling's been good, from what I've seen. There's been 2 or 3 really strong matches.
Nothing's been. I think there's only been 1 or 2 matches that have been bad. Nothing's been incredible. But I think I put unhealthy expectations on women's wrestling. I don't like saying a women's wrestling match is good if it's just good for a women's wrestling match, because Asuka has had standout matches that are just as good as men's matches. Sasha and Bayley's matches weren't just good women's matches, they were good matches. So
I'm still yet to see one that you can put on a pedestal with the best men's matches. I'll be interested to know when that will happen.
I think
Michaels Taker, Bret Austin, Cena,
and
Punk.
the thing is
when I see one like that would be good.
And this is the difference between, like, everyone's been saying that the quality of this hasn't been as good as the Cruiserweight Classic and things, which it hasn't. But you've got to think about it in this perspective that these women, there might be a woman that has like 10 years experience, but that's 10 years experience on the women's side of the industry, where the majority of indie feds don't do women's wrestling. So they're stuck with a very limited, a men's indie guy could go to like 6 different indies a week technically, whereas the women's one is, they might be lucky to get like a match a week and stuff. So they are, even if someone's got 10 years experience, that's 10 years, that's vastly
less.
Yeah, exactly. That's way less actual in-ring experience than a male of 10 years would have, for instance. So I think that's the kind of thing you've got to try to remember.
Okay.
Yeah. So who's your favorite at the moment?
I liked Sami Zayn a lot a year ago, but I've gone off him just because he's been jobbed so much. And I used to think, because I've heard this theory so many times, that keep jobbing people are not going to get behind them. And I've always thought it was a bit nonsense. But it's never happened to someone that's been my favorite before. So I never really, it didn't really happen to Brett or anything. But it's true. I've really gone off him because he's such a loser. And to be honest, I think since I came back into it, and in fact, we talked about it, it's been Kevin Owens, I think, since I've come back more consistently. I went through a Sami Zayn phase. I like Johnny Gargano quite a lot at the moment. But I think Kevin Owens has been a consistent favourite the last few years.
His headbutt against on Vince McMahon, there are thoughts that Vince may have bladed before he went out there, and then it, glued it up, put a bit of makeup on to cover it up, and then basically Owens reopened the wound.
That's clever.
If it's true, because if it's not
magician
true, then,
stuff, isn't it?
Like, it's crazy to think that if it's not true,
it was a legit
Owens,
headbutt, wasn't it?
It was a legitimate. You could see. Well, you saw the
no.
mark on the head.
The thing is, Vince was clearly supposed to bleed, but you can't guarantee that you're going to open someone up with one headbutt, even if he's good.
No, exactly.
So yes, you're right. I think
the cameras didn't shy away from it. Vince started bleeding, and immediately the camera was zoomed in on him, and the blood was flowing and stuff. So yeah, I think that it was intentional. That Vince had bladed beforehand, and it just
imagine if it started while he was doing the promo. Started while he was there. That happened to was it Nixon? not Nixon, Frost. I was thinking Frost Nixon. David Frost, when he was doing a TV interview with someone once, just loads of blood just started pouring out of his nose. But he wasn't
He
aware.
didn't.
He was just talking, and it was just like,
Well,
sorry.
there was a bit where Goldberg headbutted a locker during his entrance and cut his head
Oh,
open and didn't realise. So just when he came out, he just had blood coming down his head.
oh, sorry. I've had a cough since SummerSlam. I've not been well for weeks.
No, that's
so
okay.
apologies. Yeah,
Unfortunately, we don't edit this anymore, so I can't get rid of
Yeah.
it. But thanks, John.
that's all right.
So the next thing, kind of, what I wanted to talk. I didn't want to, spend too long on this kind of stuff. But the next thing I wanted to talk about was I went to my very first Progress show at the weekend. And so, for anybody that doesn't know, Progress is one of the biggest indie federations in the world, possibly the biggest, probably the one with the best reputation at the moment. Um, it's UK based. Almost all of their shows take place in London, and they had their biggest show ever. They normally perform in front of like 700 people. They performed in front of 2,000 people. This time at Alexandra Palace in London. It had a really great array of matches. Yep.
I'll tell you something funny about that in a minute. Come back to it.
Yeah. So British Strong Style tag team. They were tag team champions. That is Tyler Bate and Trent Seven in the team. So you're obviously familiar with the UK tournament that went on.
I've seen both those guys. They have almost as good as facial hair as we do.
Yep. So they're actually a heel team in Progress.
Oh, okay.
Tyler Bate, he's a massive face in WWE, but yeah, he's a heel in Progress. They were against a tag team called CCK, who are pretty acrobatic, really, but the show was all about British Strong Style. Tyler Bate, for 20 years old, it's incredible. I can't believe, he's that young. Best moment of it was, his aeroplane spin that he does.
Yeah.
So he did that while also giving the other guy a big swing, a giant swing.
Okay.
So he had one guy on his shoulders and holding one guy underneath his shoulders.
Okay.
In his armpits, and he span them around, which is just ridiculous to see. Title changed hands, mainly because there's belief that was the last Progress show that they're going to be doing, and that after they finish up their indie dates, they're going to be coming to WWE full time.
Okay.
Then we had Toni Storm against Dahlia Black for the women's title, and we've spoken before about Toni Storm in the women's in the Mae Young Classic and how we weren't particularly impressed.
Yeah, I wasn't impressed, but everywhere I looked online, people were like, she's the best.
Yeah, it was a fine match. I don't know if it was the person that she was against or just the fact it was following a ladder match, but it was okay. Zack Sabre Jr., I saw him again, following on from the CWC. He's improved a lot. I think if anybody suffered from the CWC, it was him.
Okay.
He came in with a lot of indie cred before it.
I think he acquitted himself well, if I recall.
He was considered the best indie wrestler in the world before he entered that. But then his style it didn't really mesh with
I liked it.
All of the little limb bending and stuff. It wasn't impactful enough. So he's been in NJPW lately, and he hasn't changed his style, but he's mixed it up a little bit.
Okay, that's good.
And he had a good match with a guy called Marty Skull, who is in Ring of Honor and NJPW at the moment. They're like best friends. And that was great to see. We had a death match, which was what these kind of matches are doing in the industry nowadays. It was like stapling stuff to foreheads and cutting people open and thumbtacks and
not interested.
I wasn't particularly interested in that one. We had there was a triple threat match between two guys who were in a tag team called Ring Kampf.
Okay.
As in Mein Kampf.
Yeah.
And so they like German characters. They were against a guy called Matt Riddle, who I don't know if you've ever heard of.
No.
He is a ex-MMA guy who wanted to get into wrestling, and he had a tryout for WWE, and they basically said that they liked him, but he needed to get more experience. He was completely inexperienced. So he's basically been going around the indies and absolutely killing it. He's one of the most over people like in the industry. He has like a surfer, not even a character. It is him.
Okay.
Like his catchphrase is like "bro." Everything's bro, and so he gets chanted "bro." All of his merchandise is like rip-offs of like pop culture stuff, but
Okay.
with "bro" shoved into it. Like
Okay.
one of his t-shirts is the NWO t-shirt, but BRO instead,
Okay.
for instance. That was a title change as well, but it was for a title I don't really know anything about. There was a number one contenders match for the main title between six people. Probably the only one you would know is Mark Andrews, who was in the UK tournament.
Oh, okay.
He was the guy who he sung his own theme music. They kept on like bringing that up. He faced off against Pete Dunne in the final, I think. Not in the final. He faced off against Pete Dunne and lost, I think. The best moment of this was there was a guy called Eddie Dennis. I think his name is Eddie Dennis. He razor's edged somebody. He got them up for the razor's edge in one
Splash
corner.
Mountain.
What are you going to say?
I said Splash Mountain.
As in what?
That's the razor's edge when it's not done by razor.
Oh,
sorry.
Right, Sorry. Right. Okay. He got them up for the razor's edge, and in one corner, ran them over to the other corner, and launched the guy over the ring post.
Okay.
To the outside. There were like two or three other people waiting who like caught him.
Yeah.
And stuff, but it was quite, I haven't seen that done before. Like throwing somebody diagonally out of the ring over a ring post.
No.
Obviously takes quite a lot of strength to do that, to be able to avoid the big metal pole.
Yeah.
And then we had a title match between Pete Dunne, who obviously UK tournament, etc. He's a heel as well. He's actually in a tag team with Tyler Bate and Trent Seven.
Okay.
He's in a stable, sorry. He was up against a guy called Travis Banks. Him and British Strong Style came out with sledgehammers, and Trent Seven was wearing like his NXT jacket. So it's a thing about their characters that they are WWE people now and stuff. The only thing about this was that Travis was shown to be like invincible. He took sledgehammer shots. He took like 3 or 4 pedigrees from Pete Dunne. Like he's been doing the pedigree and stuff as well. And Travis Banks won, so Pete Dunne's lost his title, and that is also seen as a signifier that he's leaving to come to WWE as well.
Okay.
So so the big thing about this was it was their biggest show ever, and it was basically a send off for 3 major people for them. Okay. And it was great. The crowd, they've got like the UK crowd got really famous worldwide for being the best crowd, and then the people that go to the WWE shows, they know this now, so it's very like a self-aware crowd now. The Progress crowd were the best pure wrestling crowd that I've been in.
Okay.
They chanted for the good guys, booed the bad guys. They had a load of fun. They didn't do any of the
too sweet.
Yeah, none of the too sweet stuff. None of the counting odd to the ref. None of
the only one I like out of everything that people do is the counting 10 for everything on the 10 count. Does make me laugh every time.
None of the one fall.
Yeah.
None of that stuff. It's just like a pure wrestling crowd. The mantra of Progress is don't be a dick. So basically have fun, just be nice while be good while you're having it and stuff.
Okay. Sounds good.
Like the ring announcer is the owner and stuff. So it all feels like a very kind of like close-knit thing. And they announced that they're playing Wembley Arena next year. Okay. So they're going from 700 to 2,000 to like 12,000, 15,000. I don't know how many people get in Wembley Arena, but
We'll go
maybe
to that.
10.
We should go
Maybe
to
10.
that.
Yeah. Yeah, it was great. I would definitely suggest going to a Progress show in future.
Okay.
Definitely. What were you going to say? You were going to interrupt me with something about 10 minutes
You said Alexandra Palace. I went to Alexandra Palace a little while ago for the world's, something like the first ever drone racing World Cup.
Oh, yeah.
A couple of months ago in Alexandra Palace. And what was interesting about that is that I found out that the drone racing World Cup, I can't remember the name of the company now, but there's like an company that is owned by the WWE.
Okay.
Mm-hmm. They obviously think there's some sort of, maybe not a direct crossover, but they obviously think that they're obviously some sort of expanding somehow, and they think they've got the knowledge of how to put on a show that they can take this new, because think about drone racing in 20 years time.
Oh, it's going to be like Wipeout.
Immense. Yeah. So it's definitely going to be a big thing at some point.
I didn't expect you to go down that route.
Mm.
Fair enough. Oh, I also bought a Progress hoodie and a Progress t-shirt.
Very nice.
So yeah.
Right, triple threat.
So triple threat challenge. Yes. So again, the rules of this are 3 random matches from the WWE Network. We have decided to eliminate any Raw matches where it's like, oh, the finish of such and such.
Yeah.
So yeah, we're getting rid of all those. It's just they could be with anybody. You know, it could be Goldust against Mark Mero.
It could be anything on the network.
Yes,
that's fine. We used to do rules with it, but we're not doing rules anymore because that got too complicated. So it's as simple as we there's a website that generates a single random match from WWE Network. And then we watch them, and then we talk about them.
What were the rules? I can't even remember the rules.
There were like all these crazy rules, like if we saw
sign guy and
Vlad. If we saw Vlad, then we got to do something and drink. No, I don't know, but okay. So are we ready to go with the first one?
Yeah,
in the order that I sent them. Yeah.
Yes. Do you have the numbers? Do you have all the stats like you used to?
No, I don't.
Dates?
I do remember the first one is my first ever proper experience of world-class championship wrestling. So this was from 1983, I believe, February 1983.
Yes.
David Von Erich versus Buddy Roberts.
Yes.
Not Buddy Rogers.
No. I kept on making that mistake as well.
Who I was sort of aware of him anyway. He's a fabulous freebird, as you would know from this match if you didn't already. But he was also one of the original Hollywood Blondes.
Okay. Interesting. Yes.
Yeah.
So this is Now I know about the Von Erich family.
Right. Okay. So we don't really need to go into that whole thing. They're all dead.
Yeah.
Except
there was
Kevin.
So, which one shot himself? No, I think 2 committed suicide, didn't they?
Kerry and Chris possibly were the 2 that shot themselves.
Is David dead?
David's dead.
How did David die?
David died of a problem with his enteritis.
Okay. What, like gastroenteritis?
Yeah, but it's believed that somebody was around at the time. Another wrestler was with him who hid all the drugs that he'd been taking, and there might be more to it than that.
Okay. So obviously Kerry lost his... It was Kerry that lost his foot, wasn't it?
Lost his foot, got addicted to painkillers, shot himself in the heart.
Yes. Lovely.
The little one drowned and got electrocuted at the same time when he was 6.
Yeah, so they're the only people that challenge the Hart family.
They had 6 sons and 5 died, and one's still going.
Yeah, they're the only people that challenge the Hart family for tragedy, basically.
Yeah, and they're like the mirror image of the Hart family. So you've got the Harts up in Canada, you've got the Von Erichs down in Texas, and they're basically sort of the same thing. This patriarch figure that was the promoter, that was a wrestler that ran the territory, and all the sons involved. And yeah, it's quite interesting, actually.
Okay, cool. So the first thing I noticed about this was the state flag for Georgia, which is the Confederate flag. And so I did a bit of research. Apparently, they only got rid of that in 2001. Just just as a
Okay,
bit of
that's
knowledge.
interesting.
Yeah.
Um,
I don't have much experience with. I've never seen any World Class Championship Wrestling. As you say, this is the
hmm.
first you've seen on a bit
I
of
think I've
media.
seen like grainy clips on YouTube of Kerry Von Erich versus Flair, but not sat down and watched any properly.
And I've I've seen bits of Von Erich stuff, but I've never seen David Von Erich. Never seen Buddy Roberts. Never liked the Freebirds. Don't like Michael Hayes. The thing with the
Who
Freebirds for
does?
me is they're meant to be rockers.
Mm.
They're meant to be really rock and roll.
No, the
But
country though.
yeah, but they're meant to be really rock and roll. They were the first.
Yeah.
They were the first um, people to use music,
Mm.
and it was rock and roll
Okay.
music. Um, and Buddy Roberts and Terry Gordy were two of the least rock and roll people I
Yeah.
think I could ever
Terry Gordy,
choose.
yeah.
Like
Yeah.
Michael Hayes, fair enough, but
Mm.
the other two, no. So
Yeah.
I've not really got any experience with either of these.
Okay.
Either of these.
So we've only got one commentator. Don't know who he is.
Yes. No.
Um, there's no, as you said about the music just now, maybe they hadn't started it yet because there's no music involved coming down to the
No.
ring. The fans are like all over the shop. They're like when you watch some Hong Kong sort of martial arts film and there's some dirty underground sort
They're
of.
just standing there.
The fans are just like right at ringside. You know, whoa.
It felt claustrophobic, didn't it? Did you think this?
It felt
I
quite
don't know whether it was
chaotic.
also maybe the like because I assume the cameras were a lot bigger back then as well and stuff.
Mm.
It felt like there was everything was right in the face of the camera
Well,
when
there
it
was
was at ringside.
there's a bit later on where Kerry and Kevin run down to ringside, and all the sound guys have to pick up all the cables really quickly so that they can run under
Yeah, yeah.
right outside the ring. It's crazy. The ropes are so loose that it makes me feel ill.
How loose the ropes are is a comment I've
It's
got
like,
written,
it's
and
going to be.
also
We're not going to get any golden triangle moonsaults tonight. Then you think?
no, because the other thing I noticed is that it's lower as well. The top rope is a lot
Yeah.
lower than it is nowadays, and that's
Mm.
kind of. I wonder whether that's a perception thing, because
To make them look.
there's a lot of criticism nowadays that
Mm.
wrestlers are smaller than they
Yeah.
were back in the day, and I'm wondering just whether or not it's because the top rope the height of the ropes has
Well,
increased,
no,
so they look. Yes, there is a difference,
I
but
don't think the WWE ring has changed much in those kind of dimensions.
you
Ever
don't think
since
so?
I've been watching, no, I don't think so. I think it's just different rings between different promotions. Like the
Yeah,
WCW ring always seems really small, doesn't it?
yeah, it was a small square. Yeah,
Yeah. So I just think it's a sort of a stylistic choice, but also
mm.
possibly, I don't know. But yeah, they may have done the ropes lower to make their stars look bigger. That might have been one.
Look bigger. Yeah, yeah. It was just those are two things I noticed. The match itself, I didn't really think much of it. They cracked out. I think three of the moves were atomic drop, some headlocks, and the head claw,
Yes, yeah.
which
Kerry used the claw
just
as well.
yeah, which
Um,
nothing for me.
get a close up on David's face, and for a heartthrob,
Ugly?
he's not. Yeah, he's not much of a looker, is he?
No, no. He reminded me of somebody, but I struggled to remember who it was. Just had a bit of familiarity with the face. Talking about the commentator,
Mm.
following on from the end of the match where there was interference with the Freebirds, apparently a swinging neck breaker is both a rolling head
Rolling
drop
head drop. Yeah,
and a spinning rolling suplex type drop.
I missed that. Okay.
It's like yeah, it's Terry Gordy did it. It was like, he's hit a rolling head drop, and then Michael P.S. Hayes does it, and he goes, and it's a spinning rolling suplex type drop. just, just thought, you are no Mauro Ranallo with his Ushigoroshis and
Yeah.
stuff like that. Yeah.
They had instant replay, which surprised me, because I'm convinced I've seen later WWF and WWE shows where they
That didn't.
don't have it, or they do have it. It's really clunkily done, but it's sort of they got an instant replay up straight away at one point. I just don't know. I didn't really expect it.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean that's it really. I mean, I thought he was actually quite clunky and clumsy. I didn't think much of his work.
Well, I mean, he wasn't the top Eric Von Erich, was he? I'm not
No, I suppose.
particularly surprised that his work wasn't that great. I didn't think much of Buddy Roberts.
So it's
He
David.
looked old.
Yeah, he did. Well, his Hollywood Blondes tag team, I think, was 1970.
Okay.
So
He
13 years
reminded me
before
of
this.
a bulkier Flair.
Or like a really thin Dino Bravo.
It's before my time, John.
Oh, you don't know the story of Dino Bravo? Okay, well, he might come up one day, and then I can tell you all about Dino Bravo.
To be fair, this was before my time as well. So
yes, this is before my time.
Wow, no, you were still born, John.
Yeah,
at least.
this was 8 years before I got into it.
I was -4.
So what happened at the end? It was just a schmoz finish, wasn't it?
Yeah, some interference, DQ. Yeah. Then they got chased from the ring by the other Von Erichs.
Did you keep watching it? Because what was interesting at the end was they had like a talking smack segment at the end.
No, I didn't.
There was like a little studio with a desk, and sitting behind the desk were the commentator. I don't know if it was the same commentator or whether it was an interviewer, and David. And David was like rubbing his neck, and the guy was like, "Oh, you're still hurt, aren't you?" And he was like, "Yeah, that neck breaker was pretty bad, man." And then he just talked about how
he knows what it is.
Yeah, he just talked about how they might have lost that battle, but they're going to win the war. Yeah, I watched it till the end of the show, and we got some.
They were big rivals, weren't they?
The Von Erichs and Freebirds. Yeah. That's a legendary feud. Yeah.
What were you going to say?
We got some rotoscoped end credits, which I wasn't expecting, but were quite cool.
I did not see that.
Okay.
No, sir.
Now, should we move on to the next one?
Yes, match number 2, John.
So we have Magnum TA versus
Keith Eric.
Keith Eric, right? Spelt like Von Erich, but we'll come back to that.
Yes.
Now
he's definitely not an Eric though. Von
no,
Erich.
I did wonder that until I saw him, but no, I think I can guess he isn't. So I think this match is actually a lot less interesting the more you get before it, because I linked straight to the match, and you get one frame of
Tony Schiavone with a mustache.
With a really bad mustache. Now I've seen him with the tash before, but this is earlier than I've ever seen Schiavone. A good couple of years earlier than I've ever seen him before.
Because this was 1985, I think.
Oh no, I think I have seen him around 1985 before. I thought we were still in 3. Okay,
no, this was 1985.
Yeah, so, and I was like, "Fuck this! I'm watching this." So I rewound and watched this whole segment. Did you watch it as well?
Yes, it was unbearable.
It was the most boring, but also kind of funny segment I've ever seen in a wrestling show. So it was Tony and somebody called Dr. Zwanich, or Zwanich, real or work doctor. I've got no fucking idea. Talking in quite a lot of depth about Dusty Rhodes having rolled his ankle and what he could do in terms of foot support to not roll it again for like a good 5 minutes.
Yeah, but did you not notice that there was one point in which the doctor was asked whether or not he would be able to compete, and he repeated himself. He said something about, well, with the progress that he's making, it's entirely possible that he could blah, 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 as shown by the progress that he's making, and whether or not he can blah, blah, blah. And it's like he just repeated the same thing over and over again. I thought, this is the worst doctor in the world. Until he got onto the what do they call it? The air cast or something.
Yeah.
Which wasn't air.
And then they were talking about Dusty Rhodes' boots in quite a lot of detail, and he was suggesting that he was going to be wearing a steel toe-capped boot, which
has nothing to do with the ankle,
and just sounds like he shouldn't be wearing that in a wrestling ring at all, really.
No. That's to stop them being hurt if you drop something on it.
And there were a couple of really badly framed like there were other cameras, and they would focus on Tony and then Dr. Swanich, and they were basically framing them so they were like this.
Yeah.
It was bad. And we've talked about that a lot more than we are going to talk about Magnum TA versus Keith Eric, because it was a very quick squash.
I was actually disappointed with this as well, because I've never seen a Magnum TA match, and I know that pretty much everyone from that time says that if he hadn't been injured,
He was supposed to be
in a
Hulk
car
Hogan.
accident, he would have been Hulk Hogan. He would have been the next absolute megastar in the industry. And I could actually see that. He was pretty quick.
He had it. You could say this match lasted about 30 seconds, and you could see that he had everything.
Yeah,
he was the total package.
He had the agility,
he had
speed.
the mullet.
Yeah.
But yeah, he was big, he was fast, and he clearly knew. Although we only got about 3 moves, you could tell that he knew how to work.
John, I never ever want to talk about the total package. Okay, I'm just throwing it out there. Okay.
All right. But yeah, I mean, he what did he finish him with?
It was a belly to belly. He did the back, which, I mean, finisher now, so it's a totally legitimate finisher, and belly to belly suplex, yeah, and it looked good. Like he moves pretty quickly, is agile and stuff.
Yeah,
I mean, maybe I just need to look up some actual kind of recommended matches for him and sit down and watch.
The world might have been a better place if he'd have ended up being Hulk Hogan, possibly. But yeah, there's not really a lot else to say apart from Keith Eric definitely isn't an Eric.
Isn't a Von Eric.
No. Okay, so ready to move on to the last match?
Yes. So what is it, John?
Unluckily for us, well, I say that. This is what I started thinking, but I don't think I've ever ventured this far into the dark times of WCW before.
I did.
You and I watched a Chronic match for this show like a couple of years ago, which I think was earlier than this. I've never gone this late into WCW before.
Because this was August 2000?
Yeah, I think so. Yeah. So what we have is the total package, Lex Luger.
Damn.
Introduced only as the total package. On the Chiron, they don't even say Lex Luger. He's just the total package. Versus Booker T.
So this was deep into Russo era,
right,
of WCW. Lex Luger had his ridiculous body with 4% body fat, as he spoke about in the promo that he did before the match.
Right. Lex did a promo before the match.
Mm-hmm.
I thought it was great.
I thought it was all right,
considering my. I was there when Lex was basically, well, he was sort of just finishing at WCW when I got into wrestling, but came into WWE. He went into the World Bodybuilding Federation, then went in as the Narcissist, and then the fucking American Hero, whatever that was, and the Super Push and all of that. Mega
Lex
Powers,
Express,
what they were called, with the British Bulldog. I've seen quite a lot of Lex Luger before. I just didn't. I've seen promos. I just was quite surprised. This was really nicely delivered.
I think he had a much better career in WCW than he did in WWE. 100%, and he was better as a heel and stuff back then. And I mean, like, if I'm being honest, like, there are a lot of things that Russo gets slack for, but you know, he helped write promos for the most popular era of WWE. Like, I'm sure he also helped write them for WCW around this time as well.
Gotta say, a lot of things surprised me about this. I think the set looked really good.
Yeah,
it was really cool. I think.
What with the new logo, the split,
and the way they did all the lighting and everything for his entrance.
Because he's got a like Mr. Universe gimmick at this point. Like, he's always had a crazy body, and he's always been a bodybuilder. But at this point, it's, you know, he's got the 4 spotlights that focus down on him.
I was expecting him to look horrific by now. Like by sort of 2000, Scott Steiner was starting to look a complete mess, and he didn't.
No, Lex.
I mean,
he continued.
He did
He
look
continued
horrific.
looking like that.
I mean, he does look horrific in this, but I mean, it's not in a. He's all muscle, ridiculous.
Yeah,
I've never seen him
freaky.
that big.
Yeah,
Yeah, it's. I've never seen him in that shape before, and I wasn't expecting that. I thought he'd be broken by this point because he is now.
Yeah, yeah. Well, have you seen him lately?
Yeah.
I mean, there's reason for it. Apparently, he got a spinal infection and was paralyzed for a substantial amount of time.
Yeah.
So yeah.
So he comes out with Liz, who still hot.
Yeah.
Well, she's hot in this, not now.
Yeah. She's dead now.
Probably still would though.
So we have
Liz.
Tony.
Liz does a little promo, or no, somebody.
Well, she
somebody
introduces
says
Lex.
She uses the phrase "sports entertainment." What the hell?
What?
She refers to wrestling as sports entertainment.
Yeah.
Why? Why would they do? That's Vince's word.
WCW
never gave a shit about that stuff.
No, Russo, because it's Russo.
Oh.
That's Russo trying to, number one, take the power away, and number two, like, take a shot at WWE. Like, he did it. They did it an awful lot. Like, Jeff Jarrett used to do stuff all the time in terms of that kind of stuff. Yeah, it's because it's Russo. Russo probably sees himself as having some kind of creativity in the origin of that term.
No, it was around before him, wasn't it?
Not really. No, not really.
Maybe.
But even if it was, he probably still sees himself as having an input. You know. So, because the first major time that it got referred to as sports entertainment was 97, I think.
Okay, that he was there then.
Yeah.
Definitely.
So yeah, that's why, really, you know. So we had on commentary, we had Shivani,
Bobby
Mike Tenay, and Bobby Heenan. Yeah. So 3-man team. It's funny that people complain about 3-man teams now, but really, most of wrestling has, apart from that period where it was Jerry Lawler and Jim Ross, and then the following years after that, wrestling's mostly operated with 3-man teams, hasn't it?
Bobby Gorilla, JR and McMahon.
Well, you
had King and McMahon.
Well, no, so it was JR, McMahon, and the King for most of it. Randy Savage was obviously on commentary as well. Jesse Ventura was on the commentary, so you didn't always have. I'd say a lot of the time you would have a 3-man team. And then obviously in WCW, they ran with like Larry Zbyszko and Bobby Heenan, Tony Schiavone, Mike Tenay, people like that. So yeah, it's not people complain about it now, but it's not something new to the industry and stuff.
So Booker T is a big star by this point, isn't he? Or he has been and is fading?
He's not. He's not been champion yet.
Oh, so that came later.
Yeah, it came later. He first became champion maybe later this year or the beginning of 2001. By this point, he was up and coming, but he'd been in WCW for like 10 years nearly.
Oh yeah, I was watching Harlem Heat in 1992.
Yeah, so he'd been around for a long time. It's crazy to think that his entrance didn't really change all that much for 20 years, 25 years until he retired.
It's not that many people that can say that. I think Goldust has still got his music, hasn't he? And Michaels,
Jericho to a point.
Yeah, he's had a load of remixes. Michaels went through different phases with DX and stuff.
Yeah. Whereas Booker T's has pretty much stayed the same, with the exception of like "Can You Dig It?" sucker being put on the beginning, and that.
So yeah, like that horrible woo they put on at the front of Ric Flair's.
Oh yeah,
woo.
Yeah, they feel like they have to do that all the time.
So I don't know if it's just that you said that Lex had a better career in WCW, or whether he just got a bit of drive and improved over the years. But this is about the best I've ever seen him.
Yeah.
I mean, it's not a good match. It doesn't have, because he used to only have one way of selling, which was to simultaneously he'd bend over
And
at the
arches back.
middle and arch his back, but he'd also windmill his arms twice.
Yeah.
He'd do that while going wow. No matter what somebody did to him, that was all he did. He only did that once in this match.
Hmm.
You know, it wasn't good, but it was fine. It was an absolutely fine little
Yeah.
rubbish match.
Yeah, and I mean, I don't think it was a Nitro match, so it's not going to set the world on fire or anything like that. But it was it was a match between two of the biggest people in the company at that time.
Wow.
So it's not like it was a small deal or anything like that. Booker T, like Booker T was one of my favorites back then because I would have seen this live.
Okay.
You know, live. I would have seen this when it was on because at this point I was watching both Raw and Nitro. In fact, I was watching Nitro live and recording Raw.
Okay.
I believe.
Well, I suppose Raw would be the one you'd want to keep.
Yeah. And so yeah, I would have seen this live and stuff. And Booker T was one of my favorites back in the day. But when I rewatch his stuff, I wonder if I was maybe a little bit kind of uninformed back then because I don't. It's not like I don't rate him. It's that maybe I don't rate him as highly as I used to and stuff. He's quite stiff.
He's always all right.
Yeah. I mean, he's got his scissor kick is fine. Although I hate that the way they've got to like bend over and wait for it.
Yeah.
And stuff. His what do they call him, the Harlem, the leg, the kick that he does, Harlem hook or something like that. So I think he was at this point he was kind of upper middle. He was kind of like Angle and Jericho to WCW at this point, upper mid card.
Okay.
Well, so I also like
Ahmed Johnson ran in.
Yep, he's Big T. I was wondering whether or not you knew that would be Ahmed Johnson.
Well, I was confused because there was a sign that said Ahmed equals hospital, which is funny because he always used to hurt everyone. And I was like, well, who's that? Sounds like Ahmed Johnson, but he's not here now, surely. And then it turned out he was.
No, he got a lot bigger as well. Like
he looked a bit tubby.
Yeah. I was watching this and I thought Lex Luger won with the torture rack. And I was thinking as I was watching it, I actually quite like the torture rack as a finisher. Never really thought about it before, but while he was doing it, I was like, actually, this looks the way he does it, the way he's bending them and he's bouncing up and down.
Yeah.
You actually kind of get the impression that it does hurt quite a lot, as opposed to a lot of submission moves they just get put on and they're lying there until they tap and stuff. So there's a lot of kind of kinetic energy about it and things.
Okay, that's fair enough.
Yeah, cool. We then had at the end the fakest Sting in the world in the entranceway.
Oh, not him.
I don't know if you noticed this. No.
Yeah.
It wasn't him. You could tell it wasn't him like immediately and stuff. I used to hate it when WCW would do that. Like it was clear to anybody that had two eyes, and I don't have two eyes, two working eyes. So it's clear to anybody that it wasn't
right. Okay. Fair enough. Okay. I did think that, but I suppose that would make sense for him not to get paid, basically.
Yeah, he'd have to be paid to stand in the shadows and stuff like that. But it's one of those horrible fake wigs that's so clearly not right and everything. It annoys me when they do those kind of things.
Okay. Right. Well, we could have had a more exciting batch of matches today, but that's the way it happens, isn't it? So
yeah.
Should we pick
crumbles?
Should we pick some more live now? We used to do that, didn't we? Because then people could watch for the next one whenever that may be. So let me just 1 second. Simon, say something interesting to the listeners.
While John is doing that, I will let you know how you can get in contact with us. If you want to talk wrestling, Babylon 5, or any shows, comics, or just general chit chat, then you can tweet us at Thwipping Boys, or you can email us thwippingboys@gmail.com, or you can write on our YouTube videos. Like I said, we are returning after a 2-year break, and we've changed the way we're doing things quite a lot. So it's probably a little bit of a trial and error situation at the moment, but eventually we'll get good.
Right.
Have you found them yet, John?
Yes, I basically 1 second. Oh, very interesting.
Oh,
Okay.
John, what are you doing?
Right, no, I've got it. I've got it. Right, here we go. So the first one is Sami Zayn versus Cesaro.
Okay. Oh, take over
from Raw.
Ah,
unfortunately. 16th of May last year. So we probably are. It's not that long ago, but that's fine.
yeah, that's fine. I'm not going to remember it.
Matt versus Jeff Hardy from SmackDown, the 27th of April 2000.
Okay.
And the last
and they were still together at this point. They were still a team.
The last one was a finish off, so I need to go back and run it again. 1 second. Here we go. And the last one. Dead air is great, isn't it?
Yes. Come on, John.
It's just come on.
Tell me.
Come on. It's not me. Right. Here we go. Oh, this could be good.
Oh.
The Legion of Doom versus the New Age Outlaws, 24th of November 97.
Oh, oof. That sounds horrible. Hawk is probably going to be a mess.
Yeah,
I bet that's not going to be good.
And it might even be LOD 2000.
But that'll be the start of. That'll be like around when the New Age Outlaws got together, wouldn't it?
Well, the LOD was sacrificed in the creation of the New DX, weren't they? The day after.
Yeah.
The day after 14.
Mm.
Yeah. Okay. So that's what we'll watch for the next one. That was Raw, I think.
Was it Raw?
This is. Was SmackDown around in 97?
No, SmackDown was 99.
Yeah, it's Raw then.
Chris Jericho powerbombed Road Dogg through a table in the very first episode.
Okay.
Sorry, yes?
No?
Is it Raw?
Yeah, it's Raw.
See, this is why I was saying to you, John, about maybe we should eliminate Raw and SmackDown from the equation. Because since we started doing this, since we stopped doing this, the network have added so many shows, like,
I see,
weekly shows to it, that we are almost guaranteed to get a weekly show, like, most times. And so it feels like,
I think you're probably right. Let's do it this time.
Yeah, it feels, because the reason why we're doing this is that so we can get a nice variety of people. I don't necessarily want to continually talk about people that I've been watching wrestling for 20 years. I want to grab somebody from 1986 who I've never heard of but you loved, or like a British Bulldogs match or something like that, which is unlikely to come up now that they've got thousands of segments for Raw from the last 10 years.
Yeah, fair enough.
So, yeah, I think that kind of maybe we should talk about the criteria going forward, kind of off air and stuff. But I think we'll do these ones that we talked about this time, but maybe we should be a bit stricter next time.
Cool. Sounds good.
Cool. Sweet. Right. Well, thank you for watching and listening, and make sure you get in touch and you come back next time.
Cheers.
Thanks. Bye-bye.